Welcome to the i24 News Desk. I'm Alec Pollard, and these are the top stories this hour. Beginning with the developing story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is reportedly set to speak to the King of Morocco today, following an announcement late Thursday that Israel and Morocco will normalize ties, becoming the fourth Arab nation to do so in the last 4 months. Outgoing U.S. President Donald Trump delivering the news via his favorite medium, Twitter, calling it another historic breakthrough, adding, "Our two great friends, Israel and the Kingdom of Morocco, have agreed to full diplomatic relations." Within the deal, Trump says he will recognize Morocco's sovereignty over the disputed Western Sahara region, with the Israeli Prime Minister praising the newly formed ties.
I want to thank, too, the King of Morocco, King Mohammed VI, for taking this historic decision to bring a historic peace between us. The people of Morocco and the Jewish people have had a warm relationship in the modern period. Everybody knows the tremendous friendship shown by the kings of Morocco and the people of Morocco to the Jewish community there. And hundreds of thousands of these Moroccan Jews came to Israel, and they form a human bridge between our two countries and our two peoples of sympathy, of respect, of fondness and love. I think that this is the foundation on which we can now build this peace. We'll resume liaison offices quickly between Israel and Morocco and work as rapidly as possible to establish full diplomatic relations.
Now, all this comes as Netanyahu seemingly kept his partners from the Blue and White Party in the dark over the developments. Defense Minister Benny Gantz and Foreign Minister Gabi Ashkenazi reportedly hearing the news via Washington. The alternate prime minister taking to Twitter, applauding the official ties with Morocco, adding it presents an opportunity to anchor a long-standing relationship, formalizing a rich and deep shared history which goes back centuries. And for more on this story, we are joined by our senior U.S. correspondent, Mike Wagenheim in New York, and Jasper Haman, foreign policy analyst based in Rabat, Morocco. Mike, let's start with you. The normalization, it's historical, but it seems also that Morocco will have a lot of benefits from it, including the recognition of Western Sahara and also investments in the country's economy.
No doubt whatsoever, and this is one of the benefits of getting the U.S. involved. There is much to offer. It's not just a bilateral agreement. It's not just a restoration of ties between two countries. There's, sugar involved in this. The big one, the recognition of Western Sahara sovereignty by Morocco, causing waves in the international domain. That's something that's already being talked about on the halls of the UN. Interestingly enough, the African Union has yet to respond to the U.S.'s recognition of sovereignty over Western Morocco. There are other Gulf states, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Jordan, who sent signals, at least through diplomatic channels, in the opening or planned opening of diplomatic missions in Morocco-controlled Western Sahara, that, it's not that far-fetched that other countries might follow in line with the United States. But there's also financial incentives involved here. We're reported $3 billion in investments from the United States to Morocco and to their banks, to hotel development. Also, a renewable energy company that the United States is going to invest in Morocco. So this is the added benefit of dealing with a superpower like the United States. It doesn't just have money, doesn't just have weapons capabilities, but it also has that international pool in the diplomatic toolbox, like that recognition of Western Sahara and Morocco's sovereignty over it.
Mike, it seems like the United States is giving a huge gift here to Morocco, recognizing the Western Sahara. That's something which Morocco has been trying to do for years because there are important resources over there, and there are almost no countries that recognize Morocco's sovereignty over Western Sahara. What is the United States getting in return? We know this is good for Israel, that it's normalizing ties with Morocco, but it just seems like the U.S. is giving a massive, massive gift for Morocco, and it's not clear exactly what they're getting in return.
Yeah, we won't know the details until it's all down on paper, and it could be till after Donald Trump leaves office that we find out the extensive details behind this. Keep in mind there are some ties between the U.S. and Morocco, especially when it comes to Jared Kushner. Kushner's old roommate runs the International Development Company, Economic Development Company for the United States. He was involved in this particular deal. There are some ties as well through a prominent rabbi in Morocco that Kushner met on an overseas trip. He is involved with another investor that works out of Israel, but also Gabon and other areas in the world. So, there are some ties flowing back and forth here, but the full extent not really apparent at this time.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. Let's go to Jasper Haman, based there in Rabat, Morocco. Tell us a little bit about what type of reactions are we hearing in Morocco to this historic deal?
Happy Hanukkah from Rabat. Perhaps I'm the first to do that. That's
Thank
great. Well, I think to many Moroccans this has come as a shock, of course, because of the long-standing support for Palestine. But of course, culturally and historically, this is not so surprising. Morocco has been a refuge for the Jewish people during some of the darkest days, including World War II and the Spanish Inquisition. But yeah, at the same time, at Morocco World News, we've long been writing about Morocco's positive Western Sahara diplomacy, promoting peace through development or friendly relations. And this seems like another logical step in that diplomatic effort.
And I mean, it does seem like a good deal for Morocco to be able to get a international power, well, like the United States, to recognize its sovereignty over Western Sahara. Is that enough of a good deal for Morocco to sort of overshadow, potentially sidelining the Palestinian issue, which is still quite important in Morocco?
Well, first of all, I think that the Western Sahara issue the momentum was already in Morocco's favor. More and more countries were recognizing the autonomy plan that Morocco is presenting. More and more, a majority of countries across the world applauded Moroccan restraint in the way that they dealt with the blockade on its border with Mauritania. So I think diplomatically the momentum was already in Morocco's favor. This recognition, of course, is a nice gesture from the U.S. But as the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said, this does not necessarily change the process, and Morocco does not want that. Morocco believes in the UN-guided process, in the very feasible autonomy plan that it has presented, that is already being supported by a majority of nations at the UN. So I don't think this is necessarily something that Morocco needed, but it is another step on the path to finding a peaceful resolution in the Western Sahara.
And what about the sort of opposition to the deal? Are we hearing loud voices in Morocco opposing this deal because there are still a lot of people there who are against normalization with Israel? How powerful are their voices at the moment?
Well, they are powerful, but before you said this sidelines Morocco's support for the Palestinian issue, but I don't think that is the case. Many in Morocco, including myself, have been very critical of the Israeli government and its actions regarding the Palestine question and Israel's neighbors. But Morocco's support for the two-state solution will continue unabated. I think that is evidenced by the King's call with Mahmoud Abbas straight after this news became public. And I think the UAE, Bahrain and Sudan have already shown that independent diplomacy at the UN, for instance, is still very much possible despite a normalization with Israel. And I think Morocco's friendly relations, they have helped with the peace process in Libya to a large extent. And hopefully we can provide a similar service in regard to the two-state solution.
All right. Well, we'll see how these ties move forward from here. Thank you very much, Jasper Haman, reporting there from Rabat in Morocco, and Mike Wagenheim, our correspondent in New York. We're going out for a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.